When you think of RLCS pros, a few names automatically come to mind. There's Turbopulsa, who's gotten 4 different World Championship titles. There's Justin, the young prodigy who hit the most iconic 0-second goal in the history of the esport. There's Kadop, a 3-time World Champion and an inspiration to all French Rocket League players. There's Garrett G, who's been dubbed Captain America and is an inspiration to the North American Rocket League scene. There's Violent Panda, Devo, Chronovi, Cooks here. So many different players have etched their name into Rocket League history. With a new format that was introduced in RLCS X, more and more players have been introducing themselves as household names in the Rocket League community. The new wave of icons is here. There's Monkey Moon, Atomic, Seiko, Fatira. One of the names you're starting to hear more and more is Noly, who recently won the Fall Major with Gen G. But where did Noly come from? How did this player go from being stuck in European closed qualifiers to major champion within a year? This is the story of the most underrated Rocket League player of all time. This is the story of Noly. Noly's professional career started back in 2019 when he made the RLRS for the first time on a team called Xenomoon. The team name was actually an abbreviation of each of the players' names, with the players being Zenzus, Noly, and a player you may have heard of called Monkey Moon. Despite some highlight plays in Week 1 by Noly, the team ended up getting 8th in the RLRS Season 7 and disbanded after the season. During the offseason, Noly floated around teams for a little bit before eventually settling on a team called Flamperzon. This was the roster of Godsmilla, Tho, and Noly. The team made RLRS in the next season and started off 5-1, catching many eyes. They ended up getting picked up by the org Team Singularity, and under their banner, they were able to lock down 4th place in the RLRS Season 9. Due to the league expanding to include 10 teams in the next season, the 4th place team actually had a chance in the promotional tournament to promote to the RLCS. In the promotional tournament, the team ended up losing to TSM in the upper bracket, but they were able to beat Complexity twice in order to promote to the RLCS Season 9. Out of the 4 RLRS teams that played in the promotional tournament across Europe and North America, Singularity were the only team to promote to the RLCS for the next season. Noly ended up being declared the MVP of the promotional tournament due to his performance. Despite promoting to the RLCS, not many people saw them staying there much longer than 1 season. Despite this, Singularity decided to run it back with the same roster and ended up taking down Vitality in a Week 2 upset with a crazy goal in Game 5 overtime.
Goal wins, and Singularity, overtimes have been on their side. Can they do it right here? As Godsmill looks for the flip reset over the top. The own goal. Oh my goodness! Wow! They did it to him. They take those.
Throughout the rest of the season, Team Singularity also took down Endpoint and AS Monaco and ended up placing 7th in the European RLCS Season 9. While this placement had them barely missing out on playoffs, it also prevented them from getting relegated for the next season. Despite only placing 7th, Team Singularity showed that there could potentially be something more to come from them. One big indicator of this was Noly's shot that he hit against Mouz Sports in Week 3.
Ultimately find a shot. It's really kickball back and forth.
Oh, the touch! Noly goes by. Just the slightest touch beats the defense.
What was this angle? Noly and the flip. Wow. The timing. That is crazy. That is ridiculous. Noly.
During the same time frame as RLCS Season 9, Johnny Boy also hosted a tournament known as the European Invitational. This tournament was sponsored by Incivic and included the 10 teams in European RLCS, as well as 5 teams from the Rivals Series and Sandrock Gaming. Team Singularity actually ended up in the group of death, having to face off against Vitality, Sandrock, and Weedem Girls. Despite these difficult opponents, Team Singularity managed to get out of the group with a 2-1 record, upsetting Vitality for the 2nd time in a few months and only losing to Sandrock Gaming. In the playoffs, Team Singularity cruised to the upper bracket final but were stopped again by Sandrock Gaming. Despite bouncing back in the lower bracket final, many people expected them to lose to Sandrock Gaming for a 3rd time in the grand finals. Instead, Singularity had other ideas.
They were 1-0 down in the game as well as the series, but they've come back to win this one. And it's now into the ground. Ball will stay in the air once again. Is Ahmad up for it? You bet he is, but it's a great challenge and surely the game for Singularity once again. Singularity looking to go ahead by another game, and they've done it. They just can't be stopped. And now Noly with a huge chance, and he slams it top shelf. What a series for Singularity.
Despite winning the European Invitational, Noly and Tho knew that they could do better than 7th place in RLCS, and when the recent World Champion Scrub Killa became available, it was an instant pickup. The roster was then signed to Guild Esports, a new organization in the scene, and after a few off-season results, they were looking promising heading into RLCS Season X. Despite their off-season hype, Guild could never quite get the results they were looking for, losing in the quarterfinals of each of the first 3 events and getting 9th through 11th in the European Fall Major. Due to not getting the results they wanted, as well as a controversy around Scrub in Regional 2 that nearly caused them to be disqualified, Noly and Tho decided to move on and pick up Devo. At first, things looked dire, as performances were getting worse and worse for Guild. But at the Winter Major, things finally clicked, and Guild managed to get 4th, propelling them into 8th in the rankings and giving them a shot at the World Championship. A few mediocre results had them fighting for their lives heading into Spring Regional 3, but at that point, Guild had figured it out.
Extra. Will get beat to the ball by Devo. Felt already up. 50 play. Killed it on the goal line. And Noly comes in.
Time running out for BDS. They face a sweep. It's unheard of. And it's Guild who are doing it to them.
Yeah, I don't know why Noly didn't go for it. We had the boost deal, but here is Tho. Tho coming in clutch.
Tho there to take advantage of the bump. Touch from Noly finds Tho the double opportunity.
It's in,
Shot
it's in,
to the
it's
top
in.
corner.
But the process has worked. Guild Esports are regional champions.
On their path to victory, Guild ended up sweeping BDS in the group stage and then beating them again in the semi-finals. And in the finals, they took down Aether 4-1 to secure the regional win. After winning, confidence was at an all-time high for Guild, and specifically Noly.
Wait, where's your top 5? Do you have multiple EU teams?
I got 2.
You have who's the other EU team besides BDS?
I mean, you're talking to the player on that team.
That means you really don't feel much about Vitality.
No, not really. They falling apart.
Give me your top 5 EU then.
I mean, does anyone really matter outside of us in BDS?
Oh, what about Queso?
Hit or miss.
Noly's confidence was the talk of the scene for a while, and when the Spring Major rolled around, all eyes were on Guild. A couple Game 5 losses in the group stage of the Major set them up for a match against Vitality, and despite the match being a little too close for comfort, Guild were able to show they were the better team. Guild then lost in the semifinals to Team BDS, but were looking strong heading into the RLCS X championships. With their recent performances, Guild had done enough to put themselves in the 4 seed, where they would face off against Top Blokes, a team without much expectation for the championships. Guild looked like a shoo-in for the top 4, but instead, things fell apart.
Guild will feel a little bit comfortable playing that, although this is getting worse for them. Devo caught it! He's got it!
Guild need a goal, or they're going to be down to the lower half of this bracket.
Good clear. Up from Tho. Noly in support.
No way, no way.
Noly looks to go for it. He's got
And his teammate across the net as well. Finally, there's a chance for Atomic.
He's got it.
With a double tap team.
Devo wants to go up. I don't think he has any boost either. Dementor just fakes him out. They've got so much control. They've got the entire pitch in the palm of their hands. Atomic, who else? Signs, seals, and delivers it for Team Queso.
Guild finished 5th in the EU RLCS X Championship. After underperforming based on expectations, Noly faced tons of backlash. During the offseason, Noly and Devo decided to replace Tho. While they were unable to secure a deal to get apparently Jack from Dignitas, they did end up getting Bluey. Many people had low expectations for this team heading into the next season, and unfortunately, they were right. Guild barely managed to qualify for the first fall regional of the next season, and they didn't qualify for regionals 2 or 3. The next transfer window, Noly and Devo ended up replacing Bluey with CRR, an up-and-coming mechanical talent. Guild missed the first regional of the winter split, but ended up qualifying for the remaining 2, getting top 6 and top 8 in the last 2 regionals of the split. Guild were finally on an upward trajectory, but then, the unthinkable happened. Five days before the roster lock, Guild tried to make a splash. Despite not being able to secure his buyout, the damage had already been done, and Noly had just 5 days to find a new team. At this point, there were only a couple rosters who hadn't decided on their teams for the next split. One of these teams was Carmine Corps, with Astral and Itachi. In the last few days of the trade window, Noly managed to secure his spot on Karmine Corp for the next split. This was an amazing opportunity for both Karmine Corp and Noly, as Karmine Corp was 8th in the rankings and hadn't made a land this season, severely underperforming based on fan expectation. But when Noly came in, things instantly turned around. In Spring Regional 1, despite losing the first round to Semper, Karmine Corp bounced back in the lower bracket, taking down BS Plus, Luminosity, and Team Liquid to secure themselves a top 6 finish. The next regional, they went through the upper bracket to secure themselves a top 6 finish, but ran into BDS in the upper bracket semifinals. Their lower bracket matchup was against Guild.
Dorito here on the back wall, good clear out, but he sends it straight towards Itachi, pass to Noly, and the shot's good. Pass play comes through. Itachi plays that off the corner. Chance for a follow-up. Noly puts the shot on. Swat bottom right corner.
Itachi flip reset. CRR swatted that away, and Noly now up the ladder from the heavens, trying to swing one down, and he's got it.
Oh, I feel like he's taking a little personal, Stacks.
He's got to be a little antsy to get involved in the attack a little bit more. There's a big bump, and Noly will score. Noly just goes right around Dorito. It's only CRR at the back. Noly won that challenge. Oh my goodness. Noly is actually built different today. Noly trying to get through CRR. Dorito, he does. And how fitting is it that Noly puts the final nail in Guild's coffin?
Oh, it's all smiles on the side of the cake court. Noly just dribbles it past the defense, sets up an open net.
After sweeping Guild with one of the best revenge performances we've ever seen, Karmine Corp took down Moist in Game 7 and ended up finishing top 3 for the first time in the season. Outside of the game, Noly held nothing back.
But I do want to give a special shout out to Guild for kicking me. It's, you know, I do want to say thank you. It's the best thing that could have happened.
How do you want Guild to do?
Yeah, you want Guild to
Nah, like, I want them to be shit. Like, yeah, I want them to fall apart, to be honest.
The way you got kicked, I think it's definitely fair.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was with them.
You left.
Like, I was the first pro player ever for Guild. Like, I signed the very first contract Guild ever gave out. So I thought that meant something, you know. I was with them for 2 years, and the way I was handled wasn't the best, so I wanted the worst for them. But I do hope they keep getting worse and worse.
Karmine Corp qualified for the Spring Major as the EU 4 seed. After an underwhelming Spring Regional 3, there weren't too many expectations on the team. But despite what looked like an impossible bracket ahead of them, Karmine Corp came out swinging. In their first match, they swept the South American favorites in Furia, a team that had recently gotten top 6 at the Winter Major. Their next match was against defending major champions G2, and despite going down 0-2 to start the series, they were able to reverse sweep them and secure themselves top 6 and a chance to play in front of the crowd. The next match was against an exciting version 1 team, and in true London fashion, the match delivered.
Midfield calm, off the ceiling, doesn't have boost to play it. Beast mode, double tap! And he opens the score sheet for version 1.
So smart from Torment to keep V1 in this.
That's a nice bounce back to the middle! And Itachi will slot it! P1, a defensive spectacle, now a double tap, the ball, and playing pinball on the goal line! He was hunting for that second touch, but Torment preventing.
Oh, he's so good. Oh, he's so good. Astro, you legend. What a read this is. He is so forward, and he is able to understand the trajectory back to the midfield.
The challenge off the sidewall. Torment has to get back. Itachi, flip reset. Torment back in time, but it rebounds off beast mode. V1 still on the attack. Infield pass. The demo. That trail was blue on the shot. Astro being harassed. Clear out. Noly decides to keep the play open. Beast mode towards net. Beast mode. What? A thriller at the copper box. Beast mode in 0 seconds. Oh my.
That's in?
The loss against version 1 set Karmine Corp down into the lower bracket where they had to face off against Furia again. The match started out looking the same as before, but with a longer series, Furia had the chance to bring it back to a Game 7.
They have won the hearts of London fans, and they open the scoring again. And in the nightmare scenario for Karmine Corp, I think it's gone in off one of their own players.
Noly is going to have to back down at least now. Cards lofts the ball up to Kaio. Oh, it's just means Furia have their second.
Corp getting a bit of misfortune there, but Furia still look great. They're hanging on to this 2-goal lead, giving nothing but now suddenly, Karmine Corp find an opening.
Might take the first time shot. They're taking their time. They want the perfect play.
Oh, no!
Corner. Untouchable clear.
He touches here, every touch so important. Noly gets back to the ball, mid-air recovery. Now it's free for Karmine Corp.
Karmine Corp ended up finishing top 4 at the Spring Major, losing to the eventual tournament winners Mouz Esports. Their performance across the entire spring split had earned them enough points to go to the World Championship in Dallas as the EU 5 seed. This put the team in the wildcard event, battling against 16 other teams to qualify for the main event of the World Championship. Despite the extra challenge, they handled it with ease and set themselves up for another match against Furia. This time, however, Furia had their number, and they were able to take down Karmine Corp 4-1 in their first match of the main event. In order to make Championship Sunday, Karmine Corp now had to beat Optic Gaming and Team Falcons, the runner-up at the Spring Major. Their matchup against Optic didn't look too far different from the one they had in the wildcard, but everyone knew Falcons was the real test. Karmine Corp were able to take the first 2 games of the series in close-fought battles, but after Team Falcons took a timeout, they were able to keep Karmine scoreless in the next 2. But in a pivotal Game 5 matchup with Championship Sunday on the line, Noly delivered.
They could defensively. They weren't perfect. They were almost caught. Noly reset, looks to go the whole way! Mama! Glory for Noly!
Karmine Corp were able to beat Falcons in Game 6 overtime to send themselves to Championship Sunday, but they had a first round matchup against Team BDS. Despite having a great series, Karmine Corp lost in Game 7 to the eventual world champions. The offseason after the 2022 World Championship was a wild one, and despite the fact that Karmine Corp was looking on the upswing, the 3 of them decided to go their separate ways. Noly had only spent 5 months on Karmine Corp, but during this time he showed the world what he was capable of. During the offseason, Noly decided to pair up with apparently Jack and look for a new third. One of their top choices was a young player named Chronic. Similar to Noly in 2019, Chronic had a talent that you could tell was there but never really had the results to go with it. All Chronic needed was for someone to take a chance on him, similar to how Astral and Itachi had brought Noly in just 5 months earlier. The one catch was that Chronic is North American. Around this time, Gen G was looking to get involved with Rocket League and saw the potential in all 3 of these players. They decided to pick up the roster and help apparently Jack and Noly move across the Atlantic to North America. Expectations weren't super high heading into the fall split for Gen G, as the top of North America looked more stacked than ever before. Despite the odds being stacked against them, Gen G ran the gauntlet and showed up to the finals in their first ever event in North America. Despite exceeding expectations, the team knew that they could do better than second, and they showed up again in the next regional. Yet again, Gen G had made the finals, but yet again they were 1 step short, losing in a Game 7 overtime. 2 back-to-back finals meant they had locked their spot at the Fall Major, but yet again, the team knew they could do more. In the Fall Invitational, Gen G avenged their loss against Version 1 in the quarterfinals, then went on to sweep G2 and FaZe to win their first event. At the Fall Major, they were able to take down Power in the first round of the Swiss, but their second round matchup was against Oxygen, a hot team coming out of Europe. Despite having strong results in North America, their first real test on LAN did not go well.
And, you know, North America, we officially claim Gen G. They're a North American roster at this point.
You need some help, so that's the case. Okay.
I mean, it just went. The EU NA debate needs to be over.
Smacked it off his own crossbar, but it worked, and then a floater from Jorius.
Still attempting new ideas, Oxygen, even though they didn't quite manage to score from that one. Maybe that's it. Jorius got in off the crossbar, and it goes 1-0 Ox. It's not just Gen G missing. The defending from Oxygen is so frustrating for Gen G. It's been excellent.
We see the setups. We see what they're going for, and there's no way that this was calculated. Archie was floating down from the ceiling. He had his flip, and Jorius found him mid-air.
That's an absolute stunner. The goal of the tournament so far, without doubt.
Fans knew that Gen G could do better than they did against Oxygen, and thankfully, Gen G was able to show that in the next 2 rounds of the Swiss. After taking down Falcons 3-1 and FaZe 3-0, they squared up against Team Liquid for their first match on Championship Sunday. Despite being heavy favorites, Gen G had a tough start to the series and went down 3-1 and had to face 3 match points. But with everything on the line, everyone stepped up.
Does not matter. The Liquid have just been insane on defense. They need Chronic to punch that one in. Chronic, he's looked decent so far, and he's given one to Jack. And G take it right back. Multiple times getting shots on target. That's the man who you want, and now Noly off the kickoff. He's gonna put it through. Gen G up by 2. In front of it.
Freezing Liquid in the corner. Oski somehow comes up with that touch. A big shot! Whoa. Another big goal for Chronic! Put Jackson on top of it. Now breakaway. Pop-up air dribble. Reset. Shot! Goal! Apparently Jack is absolutely cracked! Oski underneath. Whoa. He scoops it up high. Noly's there. And that's a high ball for Liquid to grab. He's got it. It's over!
Gen G had defeated Team Liquid, coming back from triple match point to get the job done. But there was still more games to be played. In the semifinals, they had to take down FaZe one more time, but they were able to do so with ease and move on to the finals. There, they faced Mouz Esports, the team that had knocked Karmine Corp out of the Spring Major several months prior. But to make matters more difficult, this time they had Astral as well, Noly's former teammate. It was a grueling series. Mouz took game 1, Gen G answered back in overtime game 2. The teams traded games again, but Gen G were able to take a crucial game 5 and force match point. And in game 6, everything was on the line.
Noly leaves it for Chronic, takes control, does the impossible! Just too good, like they have been for everybody. Joyo decides it's time to continue!
Looking for an opening, even now. They're passing the ball cleanly. Oh my! Chronic! Just what a shot by Chronic. Hits it hard and accurately. And Mouz are done!
It was the final minutes of Game 6. The teams were tied at 2 apiece, and the next goal for Gen G could win it. With just a few seconds left, Chronic kept it in the blue half. Rise was desperate to clear it, but apparently Jack was there to slam it into the corner, and Noly with a great option for a shot to win the major instead.
Oh, what a pass!
Left! Mouz Esports! What have you got left?
Ridiculous link up, the synergy was there. And now Gen G just need to hit the biggest goal. And it's the size of the entire floor. They've done it!
Across the pond. They conquered North America. They've come back and they've conquered Europe.
It's unbelievable. When you think about what these three players have just done, most of us didn't even think that they would be here. Most of us didn't think it was even possible.
Yo.
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 What's up?
You know, we're chilling.
Just chilling, right?
Chilling.
Just hanging out. Also, first win, but you look really well composed. You're like, yeah, knew it was gonna happen.
I mean, I said at the start of the day, I have a good feeling about today and we're gonna win. Ask anybody, and it's obviously happened.
This guy always says we're gonna win, and we always just win. Whenever this guy says it, he always knows. He always knows.
He's a prophet.
Your winner and fall major champions, Gen G.
A year ago, Noly's team had the equivalent of 3 RLCS points today. Now, he has 89. A year ago, he was the kid who talked trash and couldn't deliver anything after that. Now, he's a major champion. A year ago, it looked like we would never see Noly at the top level of RLCS again. Instead of accepting that, he got to work. He put in the hours consistently and showed the world what he was capable of doing. And here's the thing, Noly isn't the standout player on Gen G. He wasn't the standout player on Karmine Corp. Many people think of him as a great player, but not as one of the great players. But sometimes you don't need to be one of the great players, you just need to be great. As Noly has said himself, he's happy to be the worst player on the best team. You might not make everyone's list for top 10 players in the world, but that's okay, because not everyone on that top 10 players in the world list can call themselves a major champion.